So nurses often associate leadership with added pressure or burnout, typically. How did you manage that tension while still progressing?
Reflecting on this, I said I love my holidays. I think there's things built in to our day-to-day work that sometimes, no, I get it. I've been on the ward or worked with community teams where things are so busy. The first thing that always goes is that half an hour break that you have if you're doing a 7.5 hour shift. Or if you're on a long day, I think if you're on a long day, you're more likely to have it, but you might push it. Your break's set for 1 o'clock or 2. Oh, I'll wait till 3 o'clock. And I think we need to take the rest periods when we've got them, because you can't pour from an empty cup. You can't pour from an overfull cup. My husband and I were having a conversation about sponges. And he says, if you think of yourself as a sponge, there's a point where your sponge will get full. And the rest period, so whether that's your half-hour break or an hour when you're doing a long day, is that time for you to squeeze some of the water out of the sponge so you can take out more. The other thing is, we're not in this alone. So even if you're working on a ward in a community team, you've got an MDT around you. So let's not keep saying yes to everything. Let's think, actually, I can't do this, but obedience, I need help with. Let's ask for help at the earliest point. Learn to say no sometimes as well, because I know it might feel hard, but even I sometimes go, "Ooh, should I say?" And when I say no, guess what? And you could go, because you're an MD, people don't ask. But even when I was a junior nurse, when you say no, people go, "Okay," and they move on to the next person. So there's something about actually saying no, or it's how you frame it. You might go, if I've got these 3 things going on at the minute, you've asked me to do, I don't know, you've asked me to do the one-to-one obs at this time, then you've asked me to take this person out at this time, but I also still need to complete this risk assessment. Of these 3 things, which is the most important you want me to do? And is there something you can support me to hand off to somebody so I can have the time? So I think it's how we have those conversations using facts, taking out sometimes the emotion out of it, and supporting people with options, or go, I can do these 2 things, but you're going to have to give me time not to do this one. So there's something about taking your break, and that extends into your annual leave as well. We get paid 28 days of annual leave to go and just rest. You look on social media, there's this whole thing about Black women resting. We need to rest. We do need to rest, because your body does keep the score. And there will be forums that you are in where you can speak to senior colleagues, whether that's your ward manager or your matron, whoever, about the pressures that you're under. But also, I always say, come and think of it with solutions, because as a leader, I can go away and try and solve the problem, but I'd rather you come and say, actually, Sabrina, I think this is what we need to do. And to be fair, most people will take it on because we know you're the person doing the work. But also, it builds on your own agency, because there is nobody else coming to solve this problem but us. And as nurses, I think we need to get into that space of, we can solve our problems as well. So burnout is real. Taking the breaks when you've got them, recognizing when you're burning out, speaking to people. So we should, and in mental health, we've got reflective practice on the ward. You've got your supervision as well. You've got your appraisal. Use the places that are there to support you. And more importantly, I think, is work isn't everything. We've got other balls that we're juggling. And I read this recently. So there's 5 key balls that you'll have. Work is one of them. There's your family, your health, and there's 2 other bits. And what they said is, the difference with these 5 balls is the work bit is the bouncy one. All the others are made of glass. And if any of the other ones drop, they will break. So what you need to realize is, yes, work is important, but there's other important bits as well. And we need to do everything that we can do, not to make it take up the 24 hours that we do have, and to use the things that your organization have for you to be able to make it as better as you possibly can.
What systems or boundaries helped you
Yeah.
sustain both your role and your energy?
So one of the things I do, and I'm working on, I talked about the bed call, and I've got a plan of how I can extricate myself. But for me, it's around how I build up the people that I've got around me, because in whatever space we have, we've got amazing teams. I mean, I don't have deputies per se, but I've got amazing borough directors. When I had my matrons, I support them to take on some of the bits I need to do, because by doing that, I am sort of succession planning and building around that, being able to say no, thinking about actually who else who else in this space would be better placed to do that. I work with two amazing managing directors, and we always share our issues together. And there's something about how you learn from others as well. So always looking outwards, not just inwards. And I think when things get really tough, we can try and retreat inwards, when I think actually that's a time when you need to actually look at who's doing this better and how can I learn from it, because success leaves tips, and it's not rocket science in that way. You don't have to be suffering it on your own. Outside these calls, I don't have any of my work email on my personal phone. I keep them very separate. So I've got personal phone, work phone. Yeah. And I think that is one of my boundaries. If I need to look at I will go into my work phone. When I'm on leave, I switch as soon as, if I know I'm off for a week, 5 o'clock, you can be sure my phone is switched off. my out of office, I've already programmed it in to be turned on at 4:59:59. And Sabrina's out. I've got cover for it. I've put that down. So there's something about being able to cut off. So thinking about the people you've got around you, using delegation. I use my supervision and my appraisal to bring problems and some solutions, and ask for help from people that have done it, and just recognizing, reflecting on things I need to improve on and do. But it's not easy. I'm still learning every day. Like I say, every day is a learning day, and there's things I still get wrong, and then I think actually this is how I'll do it differently. So it's always learning quickly, failing fast, and putting the learning into action right away.
Thank you so much. That was very, very powerful, actually, about the work phone and the personal phone. I need to learn that myself. My goodness me, I'm very guilty of that. I don't switch off. I'm always on. So that's a key step for me. That is really, really insightful. Thank you so much for that. In an age where many of us, or many are pivoting away from 9 to 5s, what made you stay within the NHS and still rise?
Some of it, because up until about a year ago, because I'm in a new trust, I was in the same trust, but I've always moved around. So in a way, I didn't stay still. I've always looked for the opportunities that align to my plan, to my career plan. And I absolutely, some jobs are hard, but I've chosen jobs that I wanted to go to, and ones that, for example, the head of nursing one, absolutely really loved that job. But I realized really quickly, if I wanted to have real impact, because that role was very much around the relationships you had, because I didn't really manage anybody except my matrons, if that makes sense. And there's and that's fine, because you can lead and make change through influencing others. What you have to realize is it will take a bit longer to do. And also, the higher up you go, you realize that it's the relationships that you have with key colleagues that is going to make the difference. And some people might say, well, it shouldn't be, but that's the reality of life, isn't it? And it doesn't mean that because you've got a good relationship with somebody, you're not going to call them out on things that aren't working. But it just means you can have that conversation easier and quicker. And it's how you do that conversation. So for me, I worked in a trust that I knew very well. I knew the people. I had good relationships with them. I was able to go into jobs that I knew I could make a difference with. And to be honest, the NHS is the biggest, it's the biggest employer in the UK. But there is so many different areas of practice in there as well. And as you say, it's not just bedside. Like, I started off on the wards. I managed community teams. I did some work in community teams. I've been a learning and practice lead. I've been a quality improvement facilitator. I've been a head of nursing. I've been a pathway lead. Now I'm a managing director. I'm going into spaces that I just wouldn't if I was in a if it wasn't in the NHS. There's just so much. So for me, I just sort of think it is the place where the opportunities are. But in saying that, I know I've got colleagues who have gone out to work in consultancy firms, and they're using their nurse skills in that way. Colleague that's working in private sector, and again, she's amazing, and she's using the skills that she learned from the NHS in that way. And I think for me, it's just finding somewhere where you feel valued, you feel seen, you feel you can have the opportunities. And I always say this to people: don't ever stay in somewhere where you feel like you're fighting just to get the basics. We're not trees, we can move. I know it might feel hard out there, but if you really do the work that you're doing really well, but more importantly, share with people what you're doing. And you could do that in many different ways. Like we're here on this podcast. Social media is an amazing platform, not only for us to learn, but for yourself as well. And also within your organization, you'll have newsletters, you'll have staff feedback, you'll have, there's competitions for QI and stuff. Tell people what you're doing, because just working hard isn't going to cut it. It's not.
What is your perception of actually staying at the bedside? Do you believe nurses can build a fulfilling career and make a good living by remaining in the bedside? Or are we required to do more than that aside in today's world?
If I think bedside is inpatient, yeah, mostly are inpatient. And if you think about the different roles, you will start off as a band 5 nurse. You got the opportunity to either be a band 6 or clinical charge nurse or clinical team leader. The next step up, and depends on where you are, could be ward manager type role or band 7. Or for some people, they go off into specialist areas. So, and I can only talk about mental health because that's what I know. So for example, where I've worked before, we've got a psychiatric intensive care unit lead nurse. You could be a lead nurse that is leading physical health. You could go into lead nurse on e-roster. You can go into lead nurse on things like managing violence and aggression, or PMVA, or whatever it's called. So again, it's maybe understanding what opportunities are, and all those link back into bedside work, as we put it. After that, you could become a matron for an inpatient ward. So again, you might be looking after 2 wards, and although you might feel further removed from doing the day-to-day care, but you are influencing that through how you work with your ward managers or your charge nurses. And then on to that, you could then become, so it doesn't stop there, because then you could still become a lead nurse. We've got assistant directors of nursing who again cover the wards. And I did say, we've got directors of nursing or chief nurses, and a lot of your day-to-day is going to be on the inpatient ward. So it doesn't necessarily, so you can have a fulfilling career just in having that inpatient pathway. I think it's how you use the skills and knowledge with your inpatient pathway, a bedway pathway, to map out what your career trajectory is, looking at your organizational tree to see what the opportunities. There's other roles such as drug and alcohol dual diagnosis, lead roles. People do learning disability, because neurodiversity is another big area. So there are very specific stuff. And so you might say, oh, but Sabrina, those roles aren't there. Sometimes you have to try and niche out little things for yourself. So if you're on a ward at the minute and you're interested in a particular area, what I would suggest, so for example, let me do physical health, for example. You might notice that you've got people aren't completing the Muse charts in the right way, or things are getting missed. You could do a piece of work on doing some training, doing some sort of form to ensure that you're auditing the Muse charts, sharing the outcome and feedback with your ward manager and team during your business meeting, share that with your director of nursing, etc. So then you then become the go-to person for physical health. And then people go, ooh, there's this opportunity coming up. Sabrina's always doing it. Sabrina, do you want to? So I think there's something about how you use where you are. Think about what you absolutely like doing. Sometimes you might have an interest in doing it, and think, how can I improve it? What can I do to improve it here? Do that there, share it with other people, and then they'll say, how do I then spread it to the next ward? Before you know it, you become the go-to person for this. Then you say, oh, but there isn't a specific role for it. How can I get into? So I think, yes, you definitely can. I think we just need to be more creative with it. It's not just doing your early, your late, your long day, going in and just doing the bare minimum. If you look at my career, yes, I've worked in community, but my grounding, and I would say it, CAMS, inpatient, and female acute. That is where my foundations are, and look at where I am.
How inspiring, Sabrina. Did you ever consider leaving at any point yourself?
Yes, I did. And it's, when I say leave, it wasn't even going to be leaving. It was a point where I think I was still a quality improvement facilitator at the time, and I was working into the community. And at the time, there was lots of agency nursing in the community. So I thought about leaving and becoming an agency nurse. That was, and part of that was to make a bit more money. But then I thought, actually, it's not as, I think things then started to change then, where they were capping how much an agency nurse could make. But also it's that whole bit where you could be part of a team, but you're not really a part of a team. So what I did instead, I did this for a little bit. I did used to do bank, and I did work for an agency for a very short time, and then just did some shifts in private sector wards, which was interesting. And it just made me think, actually, it's the same thing, but in a different setting with a different clientele. So that was one. The other thing, and because I think honesty is always good, is I'm thinking of where my next steps are going to be. Because like I said, I know where I want to get to. And I think in the current climate with, I guess, NHS changing and our integrated care boards and stuff changing, that might have been my natural next thought. But my view is to look maybe further abroad, further afield. And I'm considering international. So in the UAE area, but if it was to move, it would be moving with an organisation that I know had some links back to the UK. And the reason is, I think we shouldn't limit ourselves as well. It's always good to be looking around and seeing what else is out there, and then doing your pros and cons, and and then, because what you don't want to do is when you're in your later years having your shoulda, coulda, wouldas, like I should have done this, I could have, So yes, I have thought of leaving. I didn't. What I have done is move to another trust, which I never thought I would do. But I'm still in the NHS. It's a different part of London that I work in, which is great because I just see a different ways that people work. And yes, I am still thinking about expanding internationally, but that's where I am at the minute.
You are really, truly inspiring. With regards to job boards, where can people apply for these great jobs?
Yeah, so and I'll check, but there is NHS jobs or track that most of the jobs get put onto. But I always say to people, if you are working currently in an NHS trust, in your newsletters, do read the newsletters that come out weekly. They've got lots of information on there. But on your intranet site, there should be the vacancy section as well. And I know most trusts would put jobs out internally first before it goes out externally. So I'd say look at that. LinkedIn is a good place as well. If you're not on LinkedIn, please do join LinkedIn. But the other thing I always say is speak to people. as well. So if you're thinking, I'd like to go and work in community, I'd like to go and work on this site, what are your connections? Do you have any links or networks in? And reach out to people and go, this is me. I do these are the skills background really quickly. This is what I think I can offer you. Are there any jobs coming up? Do keep where can I find them? So I think that's the space to do it, and talking to people. Yeah.
And Sabrina, you've reached a level many only dream of, but you didn't gatekeep that journey. You decided to also coach nurses, not only in the clinical setting, but online.
Yeah.
What made you start coaching? And was there a turning point where you felt, I need to pour this back into others?
Well, I'm glad you've asked that, because again, when I reflect, I didn't get here on my own. I know there's people that went before me that has created spaces that I can now sit in. The turning point for me was during COVID. And I remember, because I started my YouTube channel then, because lots of people would come and go, oh, Sabrina taught me through your career journey, mentor me. And I'm just like, I'm happy to do the one-to-one, but it's not getting out to as many people as possible. And I think the COVID bit for me was the people that were dying were brown and black people, especially in the nursing. And what dawned on me, the reason why we couldn't say no at that time is because we were the frontline staff. We were the band 5, 6, 7s that had to go in, that had to be there. And then when I was seeing stuff in the papers, the people that were then in the front paper didn't look like us either. So I was just like, no, I'm going to do this. I'm going to just talk about career progression, because people ask me about it. You know, lots of people have helped me. Let me just put it out there, because, you know, it's not a secret. And I always say to people, you know, I had to chop through the bushes and stuff. I'm going to create an elevator so that you guys could just, you know, get up there quicker. So that's what did it for me. And YouTube's great, because you can go on, you could do your video, and you can get it out there. You talked about the Nurse Launchpad, because then the other bits I was thinking is like, again, how do I really help our band 5 and 6 nurses? Because there's people who've been a band 5 for years and years and years, or 6 for years and years and years. And it's not that people don't want to move on, but they're not supported or given the community to help them to move on. So I thought I would develop a membership paid, get really good people in, similar to what you're doing here, to talk people through their career journey, but just walk alongside people a bit more, show them the how, do that support with them, but also and form a network, because when you form a network, as you rise, you pull your people up. And then starting that rise for those at the bottom. So that's what I really want to do, is create that groundswell for people.
But why now? What made you finally do it now? Did the idea just come now, or?
It actually, yes, it did. So it's just one of those things. It's sort of like, yeah, do it, because I see other people doing stuff, which is great. And I think, well, actually, I've got a lot to give as well. So I thought, I'll put it out there. If it works, great. If it doesn't, that's fine. I'll pivot somewhere else. But yeah, now just feels the right time. Like I said, I'm a VSM in the NHS. I'm also an associate NED at another trust. I've got all these unique experiences, especially in mental health. So I thought, why not? You know.
Wow. Wow. You lead, you create, you mentor, and many more. How do you balance all of this without burning out, Sabrina?
I've got a really supportive husband, I must say. I've got a really good supportive network in the background. And also it gives me energy, obedience. When I think about, I talked about my role, but I always say to people, the thing that gives me energy is if I've got a mentoring conversation with somebody in my diary, or coaching, or somebody's shadowing me, because that's how I give back, because other people have paved this pathway for me. So if I'm able to do that, that's how I do it. But yeah, my husband, like, my days start Pretty, well, not I say pretty early. There's people leaving work at 5, but I don't get home some days until about 8 o'clock, and you know, and so I get home. I don't have to worry about cooking. I don't have to worry about because my husband would have sorted out food. You know, he knows that my job's busy, so Monday to Friday, if I've got to do stuff, he's fine with that. So if I didn't have that support, I couldn't do that. And also, I want to leave a legacy as well. I want to leave a legacy.
Powerful. Wow, we are really in the same vision and legacy. Absolutely. I hope your husband will watch this. He will feel honored. What
Yeah.
challenges have you faced as a Black woman whilst rising through the NHS leadership system?
I think it's twofold. So I've been given lots of opportunity, I think, as well. So I've been fortunate to do the NHS Leadership Ready Now programme, which was specifically for BAME colleagues. I've done the Florence Nightingale Aspiring Leaders course again, and some other bits. But, when I'm recounting my story, I think I've been very fortunate. I'm not saying all the roles I've gone through, I've managed to get them. And it was just that the one role, like I said, that head of nursing role was the first time I sort of went, wait a minute here. I mean, like when you get feedback like you're not strategic enough, when you've just you've done strategic work, you just sort of go, and this is not being disparaging to other colleagues, but when the other person that didn't get the job looks like you, and the ones that are successful doesn't, you then start asking questions. And again, it was around that space where, like I said, I've been to these BAME. It was after that experience I went to the NHS Leadership Ready Now programme. And what was powerful there was my story wasn't dissimilar to the other 39 people in the room. And, that's the bit where the penny drops, because people say it's a glass ceiling, but it felt like a concrete roof because it felt like you were only allowed to rise this much. And then you want to get to here. No, stay in your place. So I think for me, that was the one time where I actually questioned it, but I didn't get bitter about it. I didn't go slagging off people and things like that, because I just sort of think that's not me. If that was what the context was, that's not my problem, So for me, it's what can I do to build my own personal brand? When people say or hear the name Sabrina Phillips, what do they associate that with?
Wow.
So for me, it's about doing a good job, being honest, being me, and not letting those things shadow me. It's hard because I know there's colleagues who have suffered a lot, and for me, that's why I will always support my colleagues, people that look like me, people that don't look like me, because again, I think it's an opportunity, because some people may not have worked with somebody like me as a leader, but it gives them, I then open the doors of opportunity for others, because I leave a perception of what it feels like to work with somebody like me. We need to continually look at the res and where there's data, because it tells a story. The sad thing for me is things aren't changing. I shouldn't just be the one or two people on an organizational chart, or people like me, but there's lots of us around who are pushing through, who are supporting people, and things will change. Sadly, that it feels like it's glacial change, but hence why I do what I do, because I need to be the change I want to see, and I need to be doing things that would move the dial on.
Oh, that's amazing. And what is one mindset shift every nurse or early career professional needs to make if they want to rise like you?
That's a really good question. I think you have to go in with, they can only say one of two things. It's either yes or no, and either one is an opportunity. If it's a yes, great, because you get to do the job. If it's a no, it's what do I need to do to get there? Yeah. So I think just go for it. What's the worst that can happen?
I wish I had I wish I had you in my life when I was rising. My goodness, where were you all my life? Oh, that is amazing. Thank you so, so, so much. I've learned, even though I am hosting this, but to be honest, I've learned so, so much from you, Sabrina. I've literally got key ingredients from you today. It's about reflection. I think that's the one that actually moved me, reflection. That's something I didn't have as well. When even rising, reflection wasn't something I embedded in myself, to be honest. So I think that was one thing that held me back, to be honest, the reflection ingredient. That was something I was missing. So I think that's a very powerful insight, to be honest. And I just love how you kept moving. You didn't stop. You kept moving and moving and moving. And that's what shaped your journey. Thank you so, so much. Your journey is proof that we don't have to leave the profession to grow. At times, leadership is the revolution, especially when we do it with clarity, visibility, and courage. Thank you so, so much, Sabrina. Where can people connect with you?
So I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram, and I'm not on Twitter anymore. But yeah, so LinkedIn and Instagram. And obviously I've got my YouTube channel, and I will be launching the Nurse Launchpad soon as well. So
thank you so, so much, Sabrina. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.
It was a privilege and an honor. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, you have a good day. Thank you so much. Bye. That was truly inspiring. If it stirred something in you, keep rising. Sabrina didn't just climb, she created space for others to rise too. Because legacy isn't about position, it's about impact. This is Prosperity Gate Talks, where bold journeys unlock the gate for many. Walk through the gate.